Welcome to the Go Flush Yourself podcast with Jared Kirk and Matt Milbauer. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Go Flush Yourself podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Matt Milbauer, with my co-host, Jared Kirk. Hey, Jared.
How's it going, Matt?
It's going.
So I think for me, the reason behind this podcast is I've been kind of in the process of getting a dog, and almost all the current podcasts out there right now are mostly pointing dog specific.
Yeah, we both listen to a lot of podcasts, taking a lot of, especially upland bird hunting content, I'm pretty sure, and hunting content in general. And when it comes to bird dogs, like Jared and I are both flushing dog guys for the most part, and there's not a lot of flushing content out there. And I know when I hear a podcast episode around flushing dogs, I might listen to that 3 times just to absorb it because there's really not much else out there. So we thought, what a great opportunity to build a podcast just around flushing dogs. So we actually kind of want to talk about our backgrounds in flushing dogs, so you kind of know where we're coming from. We are not experts, we're not trainers, we're not breeders, at least not professional trainers, but we definitely want to learn more about it, and doing so through the podcast by talking about it, researching it, and talking to some guests that have a lot more knowledge than us, can hopefully share that with our listeners. So Jared, I thought maybe you'd kind of give your background in bird hunting and flushing dogs in general.
Yeah, so I've largely been a birdless, or a dogless, I guess, dogless hunter for years.
Not birdless.
Not birdless.
No.
Less birds, but not birdless.
There have been times when I'll be hunting somewhere else with my flushing dogs, and I'll have no birds, and you'll send me a picture by yourself of a pheasant. And I'm like, how the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not birdless.
Not birdless, but less birds. I've kind of always wanted a dog. I had one in my early 20s. He was not. He was a Chessie Golden Retriever mix, but I got him when he was 2, and a good dog. But I didn't know what I didn't know, and my work at the time was not able for me to actually train him the way he needed to. So now I'm kind of in a better place right now. I have more time. Most of my kids are now all in school, and so I decided, now's the time to get a dog. So I ended up getting a English Springer Spaniel from Rocky's Kennels down in Utah. He's currently 9 weeks old. His name is Bones. And right now we're just kind of going through the training process.
Yeah, so I think kind of a big part of this podcast will be seeing what Bones is doing. I think maybe later on, maybe in this episode, if not the next, kind of an update on where Bones is, where Jared started with them, and where he plans on going, because there's a lot of people out there who are getting a new cocker or a new lab or whatever, and a new flushing dog, and they're kind of, where am I at, and where do I need to go with that? So, cool, Jared. So kind of my background, when I was a kid, did a lot of bird hunting with my dad and my family, and my dad had English pointers, and before that he had I was pretty little, but I faintly remember going hunting with this dog. It was a Cocker Brittany mix. Acted as a flusher, though. Was not pointing like a Brittany. Great pheasant dog. But had English pointers, so got in that role. My dad did a lot of field trialing with them. My great uncle was the breeder of them and bred a lot of English pointers and did a lot of field trialing, horseback and whatnot. I loved going to those field trials as a kid, although they were kind of long, hot days at time. I'm sure I complained when I was little when that was happening, but I thought it was so cool to see all these guys with their dogs and out there competing. Always thought about doing that someday. And then my dad got, I'll say, back into labs. I think he had a lab before I was born, but into labs, and we had a couple labs after that. Loved hunting with them. We got one when I was in about 8th grade, and I pretty much, between my brother and I, we raised her. She did everything with us, hunting with us every weekend. Went with us to college. We'd take her back and forth. My brother would take her up to his apartment, and I would take her out. So she hunted a lot, and loved hunting with a flushing dog. I was kind of dogless. Tried a couple labs out, didn't quite work out. Until a few years ago, also went to Rocky's Kennels, and I now have a Springer from them. She just turned 2, and I picked up another Springer from another breeder. There was a breeding female who was a year older than my other Springer. I have her as well, so now I have 2 Springers. That being said, we're not a Springer. Well, we have 3 Springers between the two of us. We're not a Springer focused podcast. We'll probably have another lab at some point. I'll probably have a Cocker at some point. I had one for a little bit. I'm sure there's other breeds I'll get into as well. And Jared, I'm sure you're in the same boat.
Yeah, my wife has told me the next dog we're getting is a golden. So pretty excited about that. Hopefully in the next year or so, I'll have a new golden puppy, and then we can go from there.
So let's talk about Goldens actually. Is it because the wife wants one, or is there a benefit to getting a Golden over a Lab? Because I think if you ask an average Flushing dog person out there, they would say just get the Lab.
I think you're right. I think for me personally, I've had labs in the past, or not labs. I've had Goldens in the past. They were not hunting dogs, but I had Goldens in the past. I like their personalities. They have a general good personality, and I just like Goldens, honestly. And then there's a ton of labs out there right now, which is nothing to say anything bad about labs, but it's nice to see a little difference out in the field sometimes.
Yeah, it's actually during the pandemic I kind of got into guitar and got out of it pretty quick, but just to mess around with something while we were stuck at home. And I had a friend who's super into guitar, and I was telling him like, well, I want this particular color, but I can't find it. I said, I know color's not important. He goes, no, color's important. You're looking at the guitar every day. You should get it. It should be pretty. It should look the way you want it to look. So I think that goes with dogs and probably shotguns too. It wouldn't make sense to go buy a super expensive version of a Beretta Silver Pigeon or a Browning Satori, but when it's the same action. But when it looks prettier and you're looking down at that gun, or you're looking at your dog and you like the way it looks in the field, I think that's actually pretty important.
Oh yeah, looks matter.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a cool factor involved as well. That's in everything.
Yeah. So let's talk about Bones. Where's I know I came over and saw him once. Brought over a place board. Did a couple little things. He caught on real quick and did what we'd expect a well-bred field spaniel to do, or field Springer to do. And got on that place board. Threw out a pheasant wing like that. What have you been working on? What are you looking to work on coming up here?
Right now, it's mostly I'm just working on. Like I said, he's 9 weeks old, so there's not a lot of expectations with him. It's mostly doing a lot of obedience stuff, sit, just getting that ready, just getting good there. Working on retrieves. He's doing pretty good at retrieves right now. Just in a hallway kind of stuff, short retrieves, and then the placeboard stuff. And right now, I've just been focusing on just short, maybe 5-minute sessions a couple times a day. I'll get home from work, knock out a 5-minute session of just doing all those things, and then let him take a break, play with my other dog.
What's your other dog?
My other dog is he's an American Basset Hound.
So what's an American Basset Hound versus what are the other types?
So there's 4 types. There's an English Basset Hound, and then there's 2 basically wire hair versions of the American and the English, as I understand it. The American is a little different. I didn't know there was a difference, in all honesty, until I got him. But my wife wanted a dog, and she found a Basset Hound, so we ended up getting a Basset Hound. And through my research, I found out that he's an American. He's a little skinnier. They're not as droopy.
Okay.
But he's a pretty big beast.
Yeah, I've seen him. He's a big guy. But yeah, he doesn't like the Basset Hound in my head of like the long droopy eyes and ears and jowls. He doesn't really have that. So it's almost like a English lab versus what people call an American lab, with one's bulkier and bigger, and the English, and the American's a little tighter. And same with a showbred Springer versus a fieldbred Springer. It's kind of a similar thing. I wonder if there's a show versus bench there, or bench versus field there.
Yeah, and I think part of at least for me, is I've always, looking back on it, most of my dogs that I've had have always been not the normal ones. I've had a Chow, I've had Shar-Peis.
You like different stuff.
Just different stuff, like not the norm. Basset Hounds, the same kind of thing. Like I've always had just kind of not the normal dog. So not to saying that the English Springer Spaniels aren't normal dogs.
There's one right at our feet right now.
You just don't see a whole bunch of them, at least here, especially in the West where we're at.
Yeah, and speaking of that, we're in the West, so a lot of our content, when Jared and I are talking, will be very centric of the West. We're in Washington State. Jared lived in Arizona for a little bit, did some hunting in Montana. We've been around a little bit in the West, seeing different birds, hoping to get some guests on from the Midwest and the East and maybe even other countries, where we can talk about what Flushing dogs look like elsewhere. But that's our experience, really, is in the West, and Western style hunting in the Intermountain West. So that being said, Jared, we're in Washington State. Kind of give you some background also on where we're at and what our experiences are and what we're looking to learn, which is stuff outside of our experiences. Here we have in eastern Washington State, southeast Washington State, pheasant. I would love to say a lot of pheasant, but it's not. But pheasant, valley quail or California quail, mourning doves, duck and geese. Obviously, there's a lot of in the Pacific Flyway. There's a lot of those here, but that's really not Flushing dog territorial. If you had a lab or even a Springer, you could go duck hunting with them. And then what am I missing? Well, the birds.
Chucker and Huns.
And Huns. There are some Huns. We have a season on them. I've seen a Sharpie, but we don't have a season on them. There's really not a population to speak of.
And grouse.
Grouse, blue grouse?
Yeah, we have blue. We have blues and
They're
ruffs.
not called blue anymore, right?
They're duskies now.
Duskies
and ruffed.
If you get in the mountains.
We're
down in the lowlands and all the Columbian Snake Rivers. You don't see those. So Jared, tell me about. So Jared lived in Arizona for a little bit, moved back fairly recently. Tell me about Arizona birds.
Arizona. I didn't have a dog when I was in Arizona, but there's a lot of birds in Arizona. I'm just going to say that. There's a lot of birds. A lot of doves. Ran into quail almost all the time.
There's a lot of quail, right?
Yes.
There's several species. There's
three,
Arizona Slam with.
Yeah, I believe it's 3. There's the valley quail, and then they have. I can't remember the other 2. I know there's a valley quail. I want to say it's the.
There's a scaled
quail.
Is there gambles?
And gambles. I think you're right.
Not mountain.
And
we have mountain up here.
We do have mountain up here. I think there might be mountains, but mountain quail up there. I didn't hunt any of the quail. I mean, I hunted some of the. I hunted the gambles, because that was predominantly what we had where I was at. But again, I didn't have a dog, so when I was focusing on other stuff when I was down there, I did a lot of dove, a lot of dove hunting, and then a lot of small game too, rabbits, and then I shot a couple javelinas as well.
Yeah, rabbits is interesting. I was wondering, with Flushing dogs, some people use them maybe more so outside of this country, but people do definitely in this country is hunting rabbits with upland dogs, and that's something we can find a guest on later, maybe someone from the UK who has some experience with that. I don't know, diving on YouTube and seeing a lot of people, when I talk about Springer Spaniels on YouTube, it's a lot of people with rabbits. It's a lot of people in the UK flushing rabbits with them. It's kind of interesting. All right, Jared. Well, this is just our first episode. We're trying to get the listeners kind of idea of what we're all about and what kind of guests we want. We are on all the different social medias, from Facebook, Instagram, X/Twitter, whatever it's called today. We have an email, and we're on Patreon. So we are an ad-free podcast, so you're actually going to get our actual opinions. If we think a dog food sucks, you're going to hear that it sucks. It's not going to be great because it's our sponsor. If we think a shotgun sucks, we'll tell you that it sucks, or that it's great. Not everything sucks. But we do have a Patreon, so we're listener supported. If you want to support us, you can get on there and subscribe. It's only $2 a month to subscribe, and we can get you on. You can get on there, and then later on, we're looking at maybe giving some more content on there as well. Maybe some tiers. Haven't looked into that too much, but might be something we do in the future. Anything else on that, Jared? Oh, we just have an email.
Yeah,
you can email us, and you can any questions or thoughts or ideas, guest requests, idea requests. If you think you'd be a great guest, you can reach out on there, or any of our social media platforms, and let us know. Thank you for listening to Go Flush Yourself podcast. Check us out on Instagram and X. As an ad-free show, we are completely listener supported. If you would like to help us, please find us on Patreon for an easy $2 per month donation. We also have Go Flush Yourself merchandise available, including stickers. Check out the podcast description or the Patreon page for more information.